Bonjour, je suis not manly, et ici le voyage d'espace je ne sais quoi. And this is le fini, the final episode of the Je ne sais quoi exploration series. We are coming back to Nara, the seventh and last planet of the system, 5,000 millikerbins, or 63 millijoules, and 3 satellites. There we go, hope you're all happy. One day is 12 hours, the orbit period is over 308 Kerbin years, and it has a wild inclination of 20 degrees. Things we already know about. And of course there's that crazy atmosphere. Delta V to get out here, 4.1 to 4.4 kilometers per second to fly by. Capturing is 2.5 to 2.8, and I actually have an ascend number of 8.6 kilometers per second, and I will show you how I accomplished that later on. If you can get out here, you have definitely earned bragging rights. There definitely is a special surface anomaly, and this place does have the highest science multiplier in Je ne sais quoi. Of course, that atmosphere is killer. It turns out you just need specialized engines to return to orbit, and it does take 50 plus years through conventional means, so just send probes out here to start. When we last left our heroes Chris, Bob, and Doug Kerman, they were in orbit above Prax. We've sent the warp drive back to Kerbin and back twice so that we could retrieve some extra parts for these guys to complete their mission. And what we're doing here is we're going to match orbits with the main mission craft here so that we can pick them up. There we go. Prax being a pretty small moon, pretty easy gravity, shouldn't have a problem closing orbit here. And we're going to warp inward here, and we should end up just a little bit ahead of the main mission craft. There it is. So yeah, catching up with the boys wasn't too hard. I just got lazy and I used the warp drive. My understanding is the warp drive can be hazardous to surrounding craft. I don't know what the limit is, and I didn't want to find out either. Fortunately, that Medusa nuclear pulse did not have such a limit. And there we go. Let's dock these guys back up so they have their warp ship. Does this design remind you of anything from science fiction? Anyway, we end up picking one of the relay satellites as a target to warp to. There we go. And here's another trick when you're in angular momentum mode with the warp drive. Okay, go ahead, get that circular orbit like you want to do there, and then set the descending and ascending nodes directly opposite to each other, and then you can warp either normal or anti-normal, depending on which way the nodes are, to flatten out your orbit. Because we're maintaining angular momentum, we can pretty much change our inclination at will by doing this. There we go. Only problem is the warp drive is a bit touchy past throttle setting number 5 there. It's like it has slow and then really fast for speeds. Anyway, so I try to get our inclination to a reasonable number there. And then we can warp the rest of the way into Nara low orbit. There we go. There we go. Inbound! Rendezvousing with the lander proved pretty challenging. It might just be the highest orbital speed above Nara, although I didn't seem to have as much problem above the surface of Eve, and it was almost as fast. Very interesting in any case. Anyway, it took a few tries to get a maneuver to catch up with the lander, but we were able to get there. We had to go back and forth, ended up wasting 500 meters per second of bombs there, but hey, whatever. It's one of the reasons why we went back to Kerbin to fill up. There we go. Yeah, not bad. Within 2 kilometers, we should be able to match up there. Now, the warp drive might have a limit on how close you can get to other craft, but the Medusa nuclear pulse does not. Just make sure that craft is nowhere near that sail. And what we're going to do is we're going to rendezvous and we're going to dock with the main mission craft's hab port there, just so that I could take a quick break before actually attempting the landing. There we go. There's the Nara lander again. Heavily based off of the Eve lander, which was very successful for Eve. but using a rather different method of propulsion, which I will show you once we enter Nara's atmosphere. Oh my goodness. What a long trip this was. There we go, we'll dock up, we'll rest, and then we'll get ready for our descent. See you in a few hours, guys. So it's up to Bob and Doug Kerman. I decided that we needed the engineer on the ground for that rover just in case we needed to replace wheels. We do have an Octo 2 probe core which will help with the descent and with the ascent later on. So as long as we have capable Kerbals aboard, this shouldn't be a problem. We're doing just under Mach 13. Interestingly enough, this is about Kerbin re-entry speed, at least in terms of Mach speed. But then this atmosphere is very different. Hydrogen helium. Again, the only way that you could have such an atmosphere this far away from the sun and this cold. Oddly, this re-entry was not as harsh as Eve's was. It might be because surface gravity is Kerbin normal here. Now, an interesting artifact happened. The texture for the terrain isn't moving, but the terrain is. It might just be that we're not accustomed to dealing with objects this size. I don't know. I've never played real-scale solar systems, so I have no idea if this is normal or not. Might be something to look for. I was trying to land onto some higher ground there. The Midlands would have been ideal, but I ended up coming up short. But this design should still make it. I think it's every 100 or so meters represents about 10 or so meters per second of delta V getting back. And there we go. We're through the worst of it. Now the terrain's texture is moving with the terrain. There we go. Not nearly the G-forces we were dealing with back at Eve. There's our parachutes, and shortly we will release that fairing to expose our cunning plan for getting back to the surface. We have intakes designed to take in what I call explodium light, which is basically hydrogen, and then we have engines that are designed to burn ambient hydrogen with oxidizer. Those particular engines I call the Tin Man engines, and they are part of a series of Ruby Slipper's engines just for Nara. It's in the current version of explodium breathing engines. Anyway, now the main chutes expand out, and I've had problems with this heat shield before back on Eve. We ended up with the same problems. We got a lucky gust of wind or something back at Eve, but the air is just so much thicker here that I think those Septrons have no chance. Anyway, bad luck. Bye-bye, guys. Yeah, you too, Sans. Anyway, I ended up detaching the heat shield by itself here just to explode it off of that. I was able to then detach the fairing for that center engine, that reaction wheel, and other things. I had better luck. It looked like maybe the Septrons had just enough push to just push this thing off to one side. Yeah. I was also kind of hoping that this thing would just hit terminal velocity and then just make a crater in the ground, but it did move off to the side there. I got pretty lucky. Once again. Anyway, landing gear. One of the reasons I brought only male Kerbals to this trip was that I had problems with the female Kerbals and these ladders, just like we had on Eve with Roberta. But finally, here comes our touchdown. Look out! And we stayed up! Once again, second time is a charm, and I've got that surface and slope indicator up to make sure we're sitting on valid terrain. Well, welcome to Nara, guys. Hopefully this does not become your permanent home. Oh boy. Anyway, we do some quick crew reports that we can transmit back out to Kerbin through those relays. There we go. There we go. We have landed on Nara safely. I don't know if this is a first for a crewed landing on Nara. If it isn't, let me know, but I'd like to think that this is the first one where I actually plan on bringing these guys back. Let's get dug down here to the surface to plant a target for our rover. Oh, so far so good. We've been pretty lucky with the terrain issues and with the flag planting. And there we go. And that will be the last time we hear "Oh Canada." Way to go, Doug! May you come back in one piece, eh? The rover proved to be rather interesting. I was trying to, just to get reasonably close to it, you know, just so we could drive over. Not a problem. But I think I got even more lucky than I did with the lander. You'll see in just a bit. Once again, just like the Eve lander, I'm using 2 heat shields. And I'm pointing this thing retrograde. If it was going to flip, then I would just let it flip and it would go one way or the other. Not a problem. I'm going to skip over most of the re-entry because it was rather flawless, actually. What we are going to do, though, is we're going to detach one of the heat shields and then we'll use the other one as a drone. This rover has got a surprise. Compared to the Eve rover, look at that. Doesn't that look familiar? Didn't we see a similar design over on Huygen? It turns out even with Kerbin normal gravity, there is just so much air that there is enough for lift, even with these tiny winglets. And well, look at that! I got really lucky here, just landing pretty much on top of the lander. Anyway, there we go! Another flying car! You know, if I could have gotten the lift to drag over at Eve, I might have tried something like this. Way back in episode 5. But hey, it seems to work rather well if it's not a little tilt-heavy when I do a big pull like that. When I do a big banking turn. Anyway, I have to be careful touching this thing down. As you can see, the dynamic pressures get pretty crazy. Too high, and I might risk ripping the craft apart. Too low, and I might just drop in like a stone. But yeah, we managed to find a balance for this thing. In this case, maybe landing lower to the ground was a benefit to us, even though we were less than a kilometer up. Hey, we do touch the rover down. And hey, it's got wheels. We can bring it back over to the lander and park it and get ready to send our Kerbals out on their crazy adventure on the surface of Nara. Anyway, there we go. Our scan strat's been busy. Notice that the anomaly seems to have moved, at least one of them has. Yeah, look at where I placed the marker earlier. I don't know if that's a bug or not. Anyway, I plant a second marker just to be sure. Let's get right in on that. Is that going to be safe? Oh yeah, it should be fine. It's still above datum levels, so we should be able to drive down there. Did the anomaly move? I don't think the anomaly actually moved. Now I've had trouble with this, so just to be on the safe side, I'm going to turn these cheats on before spawning the craft. After our trip with Bon Voyage, it seems to have saved my bacon on a couple of runs before, but hey, this time we didn't need it. Oh, but we've got that terrain problem. That's a random monolith out there. And, well, the sinking terrain... Well, we do have engines on this thing as well, so we should be able to get this thing at least out of the mud. There we go. Didn't have to go very far, actually. Okay. We'll just park next to the Randolith there, and we'll send out Bob to plant a flag. All along the way, we've been picking up science. It's a ridiculous science multiplier that I will show you later on. But first we will plant a flag by the random monolith. I hope to make this save available for you guys to inspect it later on, so that you can look at all the craft, all of the designs, all of the saves, all of the planning stages. Anyway, we did have some more terrain problems, but we skipped past that. Again, the longer I was playing through this, the less of a problem I had with terrain issues. Don't know why. This looks like a moonstone, and that is what it is, giving us just over 800 science. Not bad, but we can do better than that. In fact, we can pick this thing up and take it home with us. We do find some other objects nearby too. We've got what looks like a moon small crater. Yeah, we'll take that. Back up, there we go. Let's see how lucky we get with this one. Just over 1200 science. That's the most we've gotten from a scan so far. I don't think we've ever broken 1000 science before. But we do have one more object type up here. Here it is. This looks like a moon large crater. Again, Galileo team had to reuse the existing breaking ground objects. I don't even know if it's possible to make an object that we can scan. But hey, not a problem. We do manage to get a scan of this thing, and it is worth just over 1600 science. That is the most science I have ever seen out of any object in this game. No, we're not taking any naps here, not unless you like sleeping under 40 atmospheres of pressure. Nope, not going to happen. Anyway, now we start traveling to the second anomaly, taking some breaks. We're in the highlands at a Nara sunset. There's enough atmosphere for diffusion, that's why it's as bright as it is. It's still darker than it could be, but every little bit of light actually helps here. Here we are up in one of the mountains, and I don't know if you can see it, but the star field looks rather familiar. I think I see the Big Dipper and the North Star. We drive out close to where the second anomaly is. I make sure all the sheets are turned off. And then we go for a flight, because I have no idea how big this thing is. I want to make sure that I approach this thing safely, so I don't want to rely on Bon Voyage. But it's not too far away from here. It did take a while to fly. One of the things I had to watch out for here was those high dynamic pressures. There seemed to be an upper ceiling of about 10 kilometers up, where there was still plenty of air, but I still had to watch dynamic pressures. They were very, very high, almost double the maximum normal, but still, it was quite maneuverable at the very least. So it wasn't awful, but it still did take a while to get out there. There we go. We're just checking back and forth. Rather neat. Hey, flying cars on Nara. I bet Galileo team never figured that was going to happen. There's the object. Look at that. We've got to be some distance away, and wow, that thing must be pretty big. Getting closer, it kind of resembles a gemstone. That's what it reminds me of, anyway. You know, Nara is actually also the name of a material used in the Dunny universe from the Myst games. Nara is a super compressed rock that's used to line tunnel walls and stuff in the Myst series. Very tough stuff to handle, and I wonder if that's where this planet's name came from. We're gonna do something pretty crazy. We're gonna see if we can land on top of this thing. Anomalies are landable objects, and I do have parachutes available for this thing, so let's see if we can touch down on here. I don't know why the frame rate got a boost here. I think we got away from some scannable objects. I was hoping to land on that tip up there, but I was a little early with the parachute, and I ended up right here. Oh well. Hopefully we'll be able to take off from this much of a runway. Okay. Newsflash! Our Kerbals have landed on a very strange object on the surface of Nara. Are we the first to ever do this? I don't know. I did an image search. I could not find any other instances of this thing. I'm hoping I'm not upsetting Galileo team with spoilers. This is a static object, so where we found it on the map is pretty much going to be there. But we're going to try and plant a flag here for other people to find this thing. And we're also going to send out Doug to repack the parachutes, yeah. Alrighty, Doug, go for it. Uh-oh. That can't be good. This object is not friendly to flags. Anyway, best we can do is repack the chutes and we'll try another area. Oh, there we go. We managed to, yeah, you know what? Backwards caps, we'll take that. Yeah, it's a pretty crazy place. Let's see if we can get off here without crashing into that wall. We give ourselves a big run up and pull up. There we go! Way to go, Doug, getting this thing off the object. Way to go. On a short flight and a touchdown later, we're going to do a little more investigating of this object. Well, not bad. They're pretty crazy. So we drive back. It turns out this object does have an opening underneath. I guess one of the seams or whatever these things are, cracks, they were just wide enough to fit this rover. So we're going to take a look inside. Hey, why not? And there we go. Oh boy, bit of a disco show going on here. Here we go. Nope. Yep, there's just one way, and that's this way. Now, folks have asked, hey, can you use the scanning arm to scan an anomaly? Nope, you can't. Not gonna happen. You can't scan the monoliths, and you can't scan this thing either. Pretty impressive animation there, guys. It turns out that Duna also has some interesting looking arches. I missed them on my episode 7 play. Sorry about that. But hey, not a problem. We did get some photos of it that I posted in the forums. That's Enon up in the top corner. There's Enon again. And we're heading up to the poles and we're going to get some proper signs. Let's take a look. Yeah, pretty crazy multiplier out here. We end up hitting 2 more polar biomes. And we also try to get a look at the North Pole. I'm honestly not impressed. I was hoping for a pretty deep hole, but you know what? A bit of normalcy this late in the game, I will take that. And several days later, we end up approaching our lander. Now I'm approaching it cautiously, just like I did for the Eve lander, because I really wanted to make sure that I approached this thing safely and that it didn't tip over. It turned out that there was kind of a temporary terrain problem here, but the lander kind of bounced up as we approached it. There we go. Fortunately, the lander appears to be intact. Here we go. Bob, get aboard there, grab the science, and load it up. You know, if this were any other playthrough, I think this would be the end of the road for these guys. They've come as far as they can, and they aren't going to go anywhere else. Well, fortunately, I'm a little more optimistic than that. There we go. Doug gets to plant one last flag as well. Well, Team Galileo, it's been a heck of a ride. This is the end, the final boss. It's been quite a ride, Team Galileo. Thank you so much. There we go. But we're not done yet. This is not going to be their permanent home by any stretch. Let's just get the rover out to a safe distance. I adjust the legs so that I can kind of straighten out this craft. I then detach those chute scaffoldings. But I forgot to turn the cheats off. Let's turn those back off. There we go. Now we can do a true test of getting this thing back to orbit. Those Tin Man engines can deal with any pressure that's ridiculously high. I have to be careful though that I don't exceed thrust to weight of about 1.1 to start at least, otherwise I risk ridiculous excessive dynamic pressures, and yeah, this craft will come apart. So for most of the ascent, I am keeping to a throttle of about half, as you can see there. I'll just leave it there. I'm ever so slightly tilted towards 90 degrees because every bit of momentum in that direction is going to help. I am waiting for my atmosphere density to get around 4 kilograms. That way, I have less air to worry about, and I still can take advantage of these engines, because as the air thins out, these engines will improve. They have the same thrust curve as the JX4s. Almost, there we go, turn hard! Here we go. So yeah, like the Whiplash, these things will do well in thin air, but we've got several kilometers of thick air these things can take full advantage of. And you can see our delta V numbers for our other stages are climbing up now that we've gotten out of the worst of the atmosphere. We're going to let these things drain completely as best as we can here. We've exceeded our surface speed that we need to exceed before we can ignite our other engine. There we go! We are on a vector, but we are only at half thrust. We did not quite need the thrust to weight. I tried a lighter engine, but we still needed the vector's thrust. But that's okay. Oh boy, the rest of the ascent wasn't as bad, but it was still pretty tricky. I had to be careful. I didn't want to pitch over the rest of the way too much. I kind of had to find a compromise between surface and orbit prograde, so that I don't melt the nose of this rocket. I'm a little worried there. Doug's getting a little toasty in that nose cone. Let's make sure we don't exceed thermal maximum here. Come on, guys. You can do this. I think once we get past here, we're going to be through the worst of it. Come on. There we go. We are on the Terrier. We are high enough up that the atmosphere has no impact on it. Just a little bit of drag, and now we can point orbit prograde, surface prograde, just to make sure we don't melt our nose cone. Oh, we are through the worst of it, but here's the big question. Do we have enough delta V to get to orbit and close orbit? You see a little compartment in there. That's where I've got the probe core, and I managed to cram a couple of Oscar fuel tanks in there as well. I just not quite enough, but the Oscar tanks pushed this thing over the edge. At least they did in tests. Of course, my tests were from higher altitudes. Oh my goodness, let's make sure that we can get up there. 1129, 1130, 1136, and we have 1300. We should make it. There we go. We can ditch the rest of that fairing now. Hopefully lose a little bit of weight and give us a couple more meters per second. Come on, guys, you can get to orbit. Come on, come on. Here we go. Thrust for your lives, guys. Thrust for your lives. Hopefully you don't need to get out and push. Oh boy. Yeah, no, I might have been testing and retesting, but still, that final show is still as tense as ever. Come on, guys. You can make it. The numbers say you can make it. Come on. We did it! Oh, the barrier is breached. The barrier has been destroyed. We have made it back to orbit. Look at that. 227 by 220, and we still have 100 or so meters per second left. Oh my goodness. We did it. Hey, Bob, hey, Doug, way to go. There you go. Now it's up to Chris to go pick them up. Yeah, with a successful return to orbit, we can rename this craft. It took a bit of effort to rendezvous, just like it did to rendezvous with the lander before, but hey, we'll take that. Come on. There we go. Oh my goodness. Huh. Don't worry, guys, I'm here to save you. What a ride. Anyway, thanks to Ohio Bob and his math for helping me get a version of explodium-breathing engines capable of getting off the surface of Nara. Jet engines work differently from rocket engines, and it was only through that we were able to get through that ridiculous pressure and ridiculous air density. I can't thank Ohio Bob enough. I did some math, and then he did math from a different angle just to make sure that it looked right, and it turns out that his specific impulse numbers and mine matched up well. I'm no mathematician, but it's good to have my work checked by another guy who knows what they're doing. Goodbye, lander. Let's just send you back to your grave. We will give Nara this beautiful lander. It has served us well. And we'll get up to a high enough apoapsis where we can engage our warp drive and get out of here. Oh my goodness. Well, Galileo team, thank you so much for your efforts. Thanks to everybody who was watching. Thanks to everyone who offered advice. And I'm not manly. Fly safe.